Hey, joining us now, the second most powerful, speaking of Republicans, the second most powerful Republican in the galaxy, and that is Majority Leader of the House of Representatives, representing the 7th District, our very own from Virginia, Majority Leader Eric Cantor. Mr. Majority Leader, great to have you with us, sir.
John, it's good to be on. Good morning.
And if I may, we don't have a lot of time, Mr. Majority Leader. I want to go right to the Bergdahl Taliban POW trade. What do you make of it?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm glad that Mr. Bergdahl can be reunited with his family out of captivity. And it just raises a lot of questions. I mean, I think that individuals who are now saying, look, what are we doing to ensure that these 5 terrorists out of Guantanamo Bay who've been released are not going to be able to go in, re-engage, and start to plot and kill Americans again. And I think that's where the focus needs to be. We need to understand from the president what was his thinking in terms of denying these terrorists, convicted, hardened terrorists, from being released and out in the open to go back after Americans again.
So in the long term, do you think the president made the wrong decision? Do you think the stakes and the ramifications are too great?
Well, I mean, I think anytime that you negotiate with terrorists, there is a risk. I don't think that the United States should necessarily have a policy that you negotiate with terrorists. The overriding concern that I have, though, is how is it that we're going to ensure that these hardened criminals, these worst of the worst terrorists, will do anything they can to vindicate their hatred of the U.S. and all that we're about, how do we ensure that they're not put back out into battle to come back after us and to kill Americans?
Common Sense News, May 25. This is the John Fredericks Show with House Majority Leader from Virginia, Eric Cantor. Mr. Majority Leader, on Friday, Eric Shinseki, VA, he's out. What happens now?
Well, I believe this is only the first step of trying to get to the bottom of what in the world is going on at the VA. Now, our veterans, those who have worn the uniform to fight so that those of us who haven't fought can live and have the freedom we do, deserve our utmost commitment. We have an obligation to provide them the best in terms of the promises that we've made as to their health care. And what we have begun to see, not just in one incident in Phoenix, but in several instances that is now reflecting, I think, an endemic problem in the VA, is the behavior of some VA employees which have really defrauded the taxpayers, because the indications that we have are that these employees at the VA had an incentive to somehow reflect a shortened waiting list, which was not the truth, and had a separate waiting list. This is defrauding the taxpayers. These are some serious, serious problems. We want to get to the bottom of it so that our veterans can have the best care that they deserve.
Do you have a choice for replacement? What about former Senator Jim Webb?
Well, I think the president really needs to. Obviously, he's the one that will select a replacement. I've been calling on the president to stand up and own this problem himself, and let's get to the bottom of it. That's why I don't think that just Shinseki's resignation is satisfactory. We need to get to the bottom of this, and I do think that there's going to be a lot more heads that roll, because I believe that there was such a pattern of abuse going on, such a marked diversion from what should have taken place, that there are people in Washington and the administration that knew about this, or at least looked the other way. So we've got to get to the bottom of it. The the House Committee on Veterans Affairs under Chairman Miller of Florida is going about investigating this problem. We will continue to do so to get to the bottom of it. In the meantime, I want to see that our veterans are afforded the care and access to the care the way they should. Mm-hmm. And if that means giving them the ability to opt for care in the private sector, if it's unavailable at the VA, then we should afford that ability to them as well.
Mr. Majority Leader, for some reason you've come under fire by a number of people on the far right for your stand on amnesty. Yet recently you were the only guy that stood up to stop amnesty in the military. What's the deal here?
Well, I've always opposed Harry Reid and Barack Obama's amnesty bill coming out of the Senate. And the reason it's not coming up in the House is I have not scheduled it to come to the floor of the House because we're not going to take that amnesty bill up. I've always said that we are a country of immigrants, but we are a country of laws. And so much of the reason why people want to come to America is because of the freedom that we have here and the opportunity, but that's grounded in our law. Our law has to start at the border. Our law has to be enforced evenly, openly, and across the board. That's the problem, and that's what we don't have. Now, I've always said that there are some things that we can work on and agree on together. I've always said that there's a biblical root and a tradition in this country that says we don't hold children liable for their parents' acts. And when you have kids who may have been brought here, let's say, at 2 months old, unbeknownst to them, and they've been here all their lives, and they want to serve in our military, my position has been, I agree with that principle. Mm-hmm. They should be allowed to serve in our military and allowed to become part of this country as a citizen, but not their parents, not the ones who have committed the illegal act. So this is the difficulty. The president has said that he doesn't want to pursue this type of a first step approach. He doesn't want to pursue a path that would say, let's do the things we can agree on, and insist instead on a blanket amnesty bill. And I'm opposed to that. And as long as the president says my way or the highway, all or nothing, we can't get anything done.
Speaking of the president, Mr. Majority Leader, what did you think of his speech last week to the military academy on foreign policy? What was your overall view on that?
You know, I was very disappointed with the president's speech and said as much just after he gave it. It is, and we now see the president going on a European tour this week, and I would imagine he'll try and echo what he tried to get across in his speech at West Point. But it seems to me the president tries to talk about America wanting to lead here and lead there, but in the end, our allies don't have the confidence to believe that this president is going to lead America in a way that will assure these allies that we'll stand with them. Nor is it going on that our foes are necessarily in fear of what America may do. You look at what's going on with Mr. Putin right now. You look at the red lines that have been drawn by our president in Syria that somehow once crossed now don't have any consequences. I was recently in the Asia Pacific and heard from our allies there. There are real concerns that they have as to whether America is going to stand up and lead. And, John, I am one who believes that America has global interests.
Right.
We don't and can't pay the fare and carry the burden for everyone, but we have to lead.
Okay, we're almost out of time. Majority Leader Eric Cantor, final question. Saturday, Senator Mike Enzi from Wyoming, in his Republican response, made kind of a surprising speech and said Democrats are buying U.S. voters through entitlements. Any truth to that?
You know, my position is this. I don't think that people as human beings want to have to say that the rest of their life will be dependent on someone else or on the government. I believe that people are fulfilled if they have the opportunity, if they have the skills to go out and earn their success. We have to make sure the safety net is there for those who truly need it. But we also have to put policies in place that reflect the principle of hard work. That's what this country was built on. upward mobility, social mobility, up the economic ladder of success is what America is about, but it's built on hard work. And we've got to be in the business of tearing down the barriers that are stopping people from being able to reach the highest heights of the economic ladder of success. But, it doesn't necessarily mean that we aren't there to help those who truly need it, which we should be. But again, we ought to be pointing our culture back to a real commitment of the principle of hard work, individual accountability, tearing down the government barriers that are standing in the way of more opportunity.
Okay, we're out of time. We want to thank Majority Leader of the United States House of Representatives, Eric Cantor, for being with us. He's also your representative of the 7th District of Virginia. Mr. Majority Leader, it's always a pleasure to have you on, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, John.